everyone, welcome back to the show. Hi, Vibes and the mic. I'm your host, Veronique, and happy Monday, everyone. So today we're going to talk with Nick. Nick suffered a life-threatening snowboarding accident when he was 14. His parents were told he probably wouldn't even walk, talk, or eat on his own ever again. But he did. And in his talk, he shares the same system that helped him run out of the hospital. He teaches the audience how they too can apply the same system to their lives to make it through any trauma, crisis, or life challenge. Nick is a 3-time best-selling author and was named a top motivational speaker by Yahoo Finance. He's a speaker, founder, and CEO of Common Goal. Using the STEP system, the STEP system, he's able to lead clients through their trauma. So let's see how Nick can help some of us go through our trauma, which could be physical or mental. And don't forget to also follow me on Instagram for more clips and more information on the podcast. Thank you. How are you, Nick?
I'm awesome, Veronique. I'm happy we made it here together. We made it here in one piece. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties on my part, but now we're here and we can talk about your journey and what happened to you. So today we're going to talk about trauma, how to recover from trauma, and something very big and dangerous happened to you when you were young. How old were you when this accident happened?
So I was only 14 years old, and do you want me to start sharing?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I was
14 years old. Okay.
I was only 14 years old, and I was actually at ski club with my friends. So my friends and I had all brought our snowboard gear onto the bus to get ready so we wouldn't miss a precious moment once we got to the mountain. And we got to the mountain and headed right for the chairlift, where the rest of the class migrated inside to waste time and get ready. We were all ready to go. So we headed right for the chairlift. And then on the ride up, we noticed that it was very icy because it had been raining earlier in the day. So people were wiping out everywhere. And the chairlift actually went right over the terrain park where all of the jumps were. And I knew as soon as I saw it that I had to go off the biggest jump in the terrain park. Really, there wasn't even a moment that I was thinking, should I do it? Or maybe I shouldn't do it because it's a little icy. It might be a little icy. That was definitely what I was doing. I mean, my mind was already going on what we were going to do after I landed that big trick. Maybe grab a burger and fries in the lodge, or we could head over to the other chairlift for some runs on those trails. I mean, I was just happy to be there. So I got to the top, buckled into my snowboard, took a breath of that crisp winter air, and confidently charged towards that jump with all my speed. And going up to the jump, I caught the edge of my snowboard, and that's the last thing that I remember. So due to the severity of my injury, they wanted to bring a helicopter to the mountain to rush me to the hospital. And they couldn't because it was too windy. So they sent in an ambulance. And out of all the paramedics, the 6 paramedics that were in the area, there was only one who could intubate on the spot. And I needed that to be able to breathe. And he was one of the paramedics, fortunately for me, that showed up to the mountain that day. Now, there are several things that I still can't explain because of the accident, and now I know one of them is the reason why I'm here with you today, and I'm here today to tell this story. So, no matter the severity of your crisis, your decision to take action is your first step. Something else I learned, so there's 3 things that all play together that led me to be able to live and tell this story with you today. So the first one I already went over, the right paramedic showed up to the mountain. And the second one was something else I learned was that the goggles that I was wearing on the top of my head were the only protection that my head had.
Oh, you didn't have the helmet?
I didn't have a helmet on,
Oh,
no. So I
okay.
learned that not only did my goggles, I mean, I never would have fathomed that I would need them to brace my fall. Um, they were thick. They had a lot of padding. So not only did they brace my initial fall, as I continued to roll down the mountain and continued to hit my head, they mysteriously moved to cushion each blow.
Oh, okay.
The third thing, and the most important thing, after I got to the hospital, I was out. I was out for the count. They said, based on the doctors told my parents, based on the impact alone, I would have been out for 7 to 10 days at a
Mm-hmm.
minimum. I already had swelling in my brain, and they were worried that if I woke up and panicked, the swelling would increase and I would have died. So they had to partially induce me into a coma. So that third thing of why I'm here today was I was out, I was in a coma, and my parents were the only one allowed in my room at that time. And the doctors walked into my room. They started to share right in front of me because they figured out he's in a coma. He won't hear what we're gonna say. So they started to share right in front of me the prognosis. And my mom stopped them. She said, no, no, not in front of him, because she understood that even though I was in a coma, I was still taking in information.
Oh, okay.
So she made the doctors step outside the room. And then once they're outside my room, they shared with my parents that I had been in a snowboarding accident and they weren't sure how long I was going to be in the coma. And even if I did come out, there was a good chance that I probably wouldn't be able to walk, talk, or eat on my own ever again. So
Okay.
my parents did something important. They thanked the doctors for the information and just allowed me to treat it like any other situation. So this was really no different than any other challenge that I had faced up to this point in my life. So I ended up being in the coma for 3 weeks. I really don't remember a month because it was a partially induced coma. And then I was transported after a month to a rehab hospital. And that's where I began my journey of having to learn how to walk, talk, and eat again. And it was at this point that I was still in a wheelchair. And I still, at best, it was probably a whisper, my voice, because remember, I had to learn how to talk again. So I was in
Mm-hmm.
a wheelchair and it was maybe a whisper at best. And I could overhear my parents meeting with the doctors, my doctors and therapists, my team, if you will. And they said, okay, what do we have to do to make sure Nick makes a full recovery? I heard in my head, no, you're going to run out. So them running out of the hospital became our common goal and what we were working towards every day and every week. And it was right around this time that I started to unknowingly use a system to not only make a full recovery, but run out of the hospital.
So before we go there, sorry, I have a question before we
Yeah.
get there. Because I remember I listened to some of your talk and you were talking about when you were in the coma that you had a feeling or maybe a souvenir that you had two choices. You could just stay in the coma and never come back, or you knew it wasn't your time and you decided to come back. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Um, that's an interesting development that I've only found out through years and years of like inner work that I've done with a coach, with an energy coach, if you will. She was able to tap into my so what the work she does is we would get quiet together and she would read off of me my energy and reflect back to me what she was feeling. So all of this came out from my work with her. Um, what I referenced in that talk, my introduction to stillness was a coma that you're referring to.
Yeah.
The what I learned is that at the moment of impact, I had a decision to make and I got really still. So I left my body and I had two choices. I don't remember this consciously. This is through years and years of doing like deep inner work. I had two choices. One, I could move on to the other side, and that would have been fine. Or the harder path, I could come back. It's going to be hard. But when I do, I'm going to help trauma victims thrive with the rest of their lives. And I chose the really hard path. So that's really what I'm doing today. And I just know that I'm going to be taken care of because I'm following that inner guidance and that voice in the back of my head.
Okay, so you decided that you were going to run out of the hospital. How many like hours of exercise or recovery you had to do in the hospital, or did you think it was something inside you telling you, no, I know I'm gonna make it. I just have to follow what my team is asking me to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it leads me to where I wanted to go next, actually. So my parents didn't, as I said to you at the beginning, they wouldn't allow negative information around me.
That's good.
So it was always every day, it was always just, okay, get up and what's the next step? What's the next thing I have to do? And just to give you an inside peek, they had part of my support. So this fits right in with what I wanted to talk about. So they were my support. So I started to, and this helps me illustrate it if I can, I started to use a system to not only make a full recovery, but run out of the hospital. That's a STEP system.
Yes.
So STEP stands for support. So support, it's an acronym, stands for support. Make sure you have the support of your family and friends right from the beginning. This is going to have you falling back on relationships that you built prior to your setback. So I'll give this is only a 10,000 foot view. And at the end, if your listeners are interested, I can give them a way they can download the whole STEP system for free.
Yeah.
However, before I go on to the next ladder in the STEP system, within support is all the work that my parents did. So your support doesn't necessarily have to be your parents. However, for me, it was. So one of the things that they did was they would constantly surround me with positivity. I had affirmations, picture it. I wasn't even able to walk yet. So I would need a wheelchair or I would need help getting everywhere. And my parents had affirmations all over my hospital room. So it wasn't I could get up and walk out of the room. I was constantly surrounded by it. And I guess what I've learned now is it's not normal to embrace all that. But for me, it was kind of, okay, what's the next step I have to do? So like on one wall was, with each step I take, I'm getting closer and closer to my goal. And then with each day, that comes and pass, I grow stronger and stronger every day. So like everywhere I looked, I was surrounded by positivity.
Is that something that your parents used to do naturally in their lives, or that's something they read somewhere and they're like, oh, and they were thinking that's going to help Nick?
No, they were.
Those affirmations.
They were believers in that. They were believers
in
affirmations and like positivity and all that before. It was just starting to come into the focus. I guess you would. This is back in 2003. It was just starting to come into the focus, like right around the movie The Secret when that came.
The Secret, yeah.
Yeah, like right around that time. So they were already into that. And then so back to the acronym is the second letter T is trust. So trust that once you take your first step, your next step's always going to be available to you. And this also starts with trusting that voice that you have within inside of yourself. And you have to follow it. So we all have a voice inside of ourselves. And I've already shared how I trusted that voice inside of myself, that no, you're going to run out of the hospital. You have to follow that. So if we have time, I'll share how that voice, listening to that voice, I've listened to it all throughout my life, has allowed me the opportunity to do exactly what I'm doing today, which is telling my story and helping trauma victims, telling my story from stage and helping trauma victims to thrive with the rest of their lives. And then E is energy. So energy, maintaining your energy allows your body's natural ability to be able to heal itself. And medication has the potential to get in the way of that. Obviously within reason here. That first set in the hospital costs $250,000. So if it wasn't for modern medicine, I wouldn't be here today. However, there's a use, time, and place for everything. So a month after my accident, when I came out of the ICU, was the time that we needed to allow the body to heal itself.
Okay.
And the last letter, P, is for persistence. So once you take your first step, keep getting up every day and taking your next step, no matter how small. And by continuing to move forward every day, you are building an unstoppable momentum. If you fast forward a little less than 60 days later, I realized my goal of running out of the hospital.
In 60 days?
Yeah, a little less than, I was in the coma for a month.
Yeah.
Then a little less than 60 days later after that, I realized my goal of running out of the hospital. And after running out of the hospital, that it really wasn't like my work was done. I had to continue to go to outpatient therapy for another 6 months, along with being tutored all summer long, 5 days a week, in order to continue on to high school with the rest of the classmates. And then if you fast forward, because I want to make sure we get to how that voice in the back of my head led me to what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
So if you fast forward a little bit, I graduated from high school, and then I got my real estate license, and I started helping buyers and sellers as a realtor. And then at the end of 2014, my dad approached me, and he was an investor at the time, a real estate investor, and he said he needed help marketing all the properties that he was getting under contract, non-conventionally. So without big down payments, big investor down payments, or signing personally for loans. So he was getting all these properties, and he needed someone to help him with marketing them. So I was resistant at first, but then I came around to the idea, and I started helping him, and our business just grew. And it didn't make sense for me to keep my real estate license any longer. So after I closed my last deal in January of 2016, I let my real estate license go and joined him full time to help him with the marketing, all the properties, and all the buyers that were coming in off of all that marketing. And in doing that, I've had the opportunity we've been holding events since 2016, and I've been afforded the ability to be able to share my story on stage. And ever since I graduated from school, I've always had this voice in the back of my head that's saying, no matter what I'm doing, sales, real estate, whatever I'm being successful in, is, the voice says, that's great. But what you really need to be doing is telling your story from stage and helping trauma survivors to thrive with the rest of their lives. So that voice has always been in the back of my head, and it hasn't gone away. And because I've had the opportunity to share my story on stage at our events once or twice a year since 2016, I always thought, I'm following that. I'm following that guidance.
Okay.
However, I really wasn't. If I was honest with myself, I really wasn't. So in 2019, someone approached me after hearing me speak, and she said, and that was the longest that I had spoke up until that point in time, and that was for maybe 15 or 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, if I'm ever looking to fine-tune my message and to bring it to another level so that it's able to have maximum impact and maximum reach, so I'm able to help the most amount of people possible, she can point me in the right direction and introduce me to some coaches. Well, I wasn't ready yet. However, I always hung on to her card. And then in May of 2021, I finally reached out to her and said, okay, I'm ready. Who do I need to talk to? And ever since that first call that I had with Trisha, there has been no voice in the back of my head. So what that's evidence to me is that I'm doing exactly what I was put on this earth to do. So I shared that first call with Trisha, my story and the speaking that I've done and what I was looking to do. And I said, do you think that's possible? She said, yeah. I said, okay, what do you think I should do? She said, the speaker salon. And I said, what's that? She said, that's you commute to New York City for 6 weeks in a row. And then on the final week, the 6th week, so for 5 weeks, you get to perform your talk, your 10 to 15 minute talk, and work with me on stage at the Triad Theater in New York City. And on the 6th week, you get to perform that talk to TEDx organizers, event organizers, event planner, podcast hosts, people who book speakers to speak. So I said yes. So now I have a 50 and a 60-minute version of a keynote talk that I'm now delivering to brain injury associations all across the country at their annual events, at their annual conferences. And also I'm starting to expand to other organizations that support individuals that are going through trauma. And I get to share the STEP system, the same system that helped me run out of the hospital. And I get to teach it in the keynotes because I have that much time. I have 50 to 60 minutes. And I get to tell a lot of fun stories, funny stories from when I was in the hospital. And and Trisha was the one that helped me launch Common Goal. And so prior to her, none of what I have today, 90% of what I work on today wouldn't have existed. And I just feel like I am on the right path because I'm listening to that guidance. And I know because I'm listening to that inner guidance that I'm going to be taken care of.
So you created Common Goal? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So can you tell us what the name symbolized to you?
Everything that we're doing, I heard in the back of my head, no, you're going to run out of the hospital. So then running out of the hospital became our common goal. What we're all working towards together on a daily and a weekly basis. So that's exactly where the name comes from, Common Goal. So by sharing my story, teaching the STEP system, I'm able to help people to uncover their common goal, whatever it is for them, and to help them organize their team to achieve that goal.
From your experience, what the STEP system, how is it different from another personal development or trauma recovery methods?
I don't want to, by sharing my trauma, I don't want to discount other people's trauma.
Sure.
So every level of trauma it's still trauma. And what I'm sharing is just the personal system that unknowingly, because at the time when I was recovering from my accident, I didn't know that I was using the STEP system. It wasn't until later in my life, and then I hinted at the voice challenge that I had to overcome and how my voice was still when the women saw me speak in September of 2019 how it was still strained and I was still having trouble in my voice. Well, after developing it in 2012, and then when I was coming out on the other side of that, I realized that I used the same system. So not only did I recover from my snowboarding accident, from being in a coma for 3 weeks and having to learn how to walk, talk, and eat again, I did it again with this voice challenge. And I was like, I have something here. So I have something here that I really want to spread the word and teach it and help share it with other individuals that are going through anything in their lives. And the step system this is without me researching other methodologies. There's a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of similarities. And just to give you an idea, so last month I was a closing keynote at the Brain Injury Alliance of Vermont at their annual conference. And I was blown away by, it was so good, all the presentations at the conference, because for me, I was able to see the how and the why things work so well for me, like after the fact, like on the other side of a trauma, to be able to look at it and say, oh, that's why this is working, because I'm doing this, what they're teaching. So there's similarities. I'm sure there's similarities in what I teach and then what other doctors and professionals and therapists teach. However, I am not one of them. I'm not a doctor or therapist. I just share my lived experience and what worked for me and what helped me move on with the rest of my life.
There's something you talk that's really important, and I think I really believe in this. Is you talk about stillness, the fact that when you lost your voice, you couldn't say anything, and so you couldn't do it. So for a while, you didn't do anything, and that really helped your recovery. So can you tell us about how stillness that can help the healing process from your experience?
Absolutely. Actually, I can tell you've done your homework, because that's a great question. How stillness fits into the whole step system. Stillness and that talk that you saw, that shorter talk that I did, is an additional thing to the system. It fits within the step system. So stillness is meditation. That it's another word for meditation. And by developing stillness, and look, I've been meditating now for coming up in a couple of months on 16 years. So it's not a quick overnight fix. However, by going through the daily motions and doing a little bit every day and developing it and developing that habit, you're building a reservoir of resilience that's going to be energy and resilience that's going to be able to carry you through any challenge in your life. So stillness, where it fits in, the step system is energy. It's a huge part of energy. And taking care of your energy. And I still do that to this day.
Yeah. I think meditating every day is really important. I mean, I don't do it. I wish I could, because sometimes I forget. But yeah, meditating or even praying, I think it's really important to include that in your daily routine. It's nice sometimes not just to stop thinking for a while, but it's really hard to stop your mind.
That's why you need to do it.
It's really hard. I mean, it takes training, I guess. So do you work one-on-one with people?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. So it's like it's a process. So I encourage everyone, and it's not to say that you can't heal on your own and you need me necessarily. However, it's a bit of a process. So first and foremost, the step system, this is a perfect place to share that. So the step system, step is an ebook. It's free. So what we cover today is just like a 10,000 foot view of the step system. So if your listeners go to nickprefontaine.com/step, they're able to download the whole step system for free and learn all about support, trust, energy, and persistence. And I say it's a process because after you go through that, and that again, that's free. So I'm not pitching anything with that. I just want that to happen first before I work one-on-one with people. Just so we're speaking a common language. And when we jump on the phone, we can hit the ground running because we're speaking a common language. You know exactly the methodology and how I think. Then after that, absolutely. Have consultations to work one-on-one with people. And then one of the things as well that I offer, which is a little more affordable than working one-on-one with me, well, a lot more affordable, is the step video series. So the step video series helps you. There's individual videos, coaching emails, coaching videos, workbooks with each letter to help you identify your support, trust, energy, and persistence, and to help you take your next step. Then absolutely, at any point in that process, if you're still feeling stuck, you can definitely have a consultation on the phone to see if it's a fit to work together.
Is there a common challenge that your client they face? Like they would tell you, oh, I get stuck, I don't have any support, or I can't really feel the energy in me, or I don't think those different steps, I don't think I can be persistent. Is there some a common one that always come back?
Well, I just know that there are so many people out there who are stuck and they're almost paralyzed and they don't know what to do. They're paralyzed and they're overwhelmed by their situation and everything. And they don't even know there's so much in front of them. They don't even know what the first step is going to be. So I find that, and I help everyone with, once you take your first step, your next step's always going to be possible for you. And that's why I always recommend, especially if you feel stuck, that a great place to start is to download Step the ebook for free. And I'm finding that once you take your first step, your next step's always going to be available. And that's like me. I follow that advice too, all throughout my life. It's a mirror, basically, about what I'm teaching.
You talk also about limitless potential. Can you tell us about that?
Limitless potential. I think I'd like to tie that or liken that to that voice in the back of your head, because that's so positive and encouraging and urging you on to the next uplifting thing in your life. I'm not talking about the negative voice, the doubting voice, of saying, "Oh, you could never do that." They're very different, if you know what I mean. Those two voices are very different, but all right. So those two voices are very different, and tapping into that positive voice in the back of your head that's telling you what you should be doing next. If you've been getting a thought and it keeps coming up, what you should be doing next in your life, by following that guidance, you're tapping into your limitless potential. And I still do it. I still do it in my life every day.
Could that be like your sixth sense? Because sometimes I have that voice and sometimes I don't listen to it and I make a mistake.
You just hit it. Sometimes you don't listen to it because a lot of the time we all do.
You doubt, right?
We doubt and think, oh, well, who would ever, example, who would ever listen to me? Or, oh no, I could never do that. I'm XYZ. Or not, someone from my background has never done anything like that. Or,
I don't deserve this.
Well, all those, and there's a multitude of them, and those are not going to go away. What I'm talking about is following that voice. Like for me, if you think of it, I've had that voice in the back of my head since I got out of high school, saying to me that, yeah, great. What you really need to be doing is telling your story from stage and helping trauma victims thrive with the rest of their lives. So throughout my life until May of 2021, I just kind of pushed it aside. Like, yeah, okay, that's great. But then I finally listened to it and I took action on it.
It's a good story because, being in a coma, having this kind of accident, ski accident is really snowboarding. It's so dangerous. And some people, they don't come back from that. Are you still going skiing? Do you still like doing that? Or you're like, no, I'm staying away now?
Great
But I
question.
would be traumatized. I wouldn't touch it anymore.
Great question. I somehow, and I still don't know how I did it, I somehow convinced my parents that it was a good idea to let me. I used to work at the local hill as a snowboard instructor before my accident. So I somehow convinced them that it was a good idea to let me hang out at that same hill and help out. Oh no, I wasn't going to snowboard, but I just want to help out and be around it and be around my friends. Well, temptation proved too much, and my friends were all instructed to not let me snowboard. However, once I borrowed one of their boards one day.
Okay.
Once they saw that I could snowboard, they were like, "Oh, Nick's back." So they let me snowboard, and then one day my mom found out, and I came home and she was in tears. And since I saw her and what I put my parents through, I just don't want to do it anymore. And I take that energy and I focus it in more productive means, like what I'm doing today.
Yes.
Being here with you today and helping people like I'm doing with Common Goal.
Yeah, because it's so hard for a parent to see, your kids suffering. So I'm sure she wasn't really happy about that. But we're almost out of time. So that was a great story. I really appreciate it. And everything you said about if people want to reach you or download, the ebook, I will put everything in the show notes, of course. Do you want to add anything maybe I didn't ask?
Yeah. Like I said, I just want to keep reiterating especially if you don't know what to do and you're stuck. A great first step is to download Step. And I find that once you take your first step, your next step's always going to be available to you. Follow it.
Well, thank you, Nick. Thank you very much for the conversation. And wish you the best with all the talk. Do you have any more talk? Do you have a lot of talk for this year? Already scheduled?
I have a few irons in the fire that I'm working on. As recent as a couple hours before, I was in talks with another organization. Right now, I have the Brain Injury Association of Minnesota. That's on April 8th.
Okay.
So that's right now, and like I said, I get a lot of feelers out there, and I'm starting to work with an international speaker bureau, so that's pretty exciting too.
I'm sorry, you do that full time? You're not doing real estate anymore? Or
I'm
doing
both.
Yeah. Okay.
Doing both. Yeah.
Well, thank you for helping people. It's always important, to give back to your community. Thank you very much. And I hope that, if people they need anything, they can just download your ebook and contact you and work with you. Definitely.
Awesome. That's the best way to find me. And I thank you for the time. You've been awesome.
Thank you for your time, Nick. Thank you. Bye, everyone.